Hello and welcome to the Conscious Communion podcast, where we traverse through the inner dwellings of the human experience through conversation. I'm your host, Danae. Join me as we explore the interconnection of creativity and community. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Conscious Communion. I have David Mazzo here, who is an intuitive psychic healer. He is a quantum energy healer. He is also a spiritual guide, enlivening people to understand their dreams on a deeper level. I'm so honored and privileged to be here in his space where he holds sessions with people. I met him through fellow Conscious Communion guest, Aaron Robinson, and I'm so excited to be here with you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and I'm really excited to see where this conversation is going to lead us.
Yeah, me too. I would love to hear, I know a little bit, but I would love for you to share how this journey began for you, because I know it was enlivened because of a very big experience that took place in your life. So if you could just share where it got started and how it began.
So the current journey, because life is a whole journey itself, and you get to find meaning even in your first days, right, of why you're here today. But I would say my current journey started the day of my awakening, which feels like almost the day of the birth of my soul, which happened as many after near-death experience. And my near-death experience wasn't the typical car accident or something life-threatening like this. It was purely heartbreak. So I come from France, and I left France for love. Love didn't work. And after the loss of love, I met another person. This love was enlightening the fact that the first one wasn't just love. It might have been trauma bonding or other things. This one was pure love, but we were young, and it's as if the shadow came through. The trauma resurfaced, something we were not aware to. So our unconsciousness showed into our behavior, and this love got tainted by our fears, and lost that love. And this is the one that just triggered everything, because after losing France, my home, my family, after losing my first love, I had just lost the greatest love ever. So I was faced with, what am I left with? And the need to understand, how could I get to this point? How could one person trying to make the best decisions end up in my shoes? No money, no home, no family, no love, and no knowledge of who I was. And so my manifestation was trying to find out who I was. So I started doing soul searching. Astrology, numerology, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, brain maps, so on and so forth, trying to collect from a ton of different sources, more logical, more ethereal, and see what would be the same song, if you want. And I was reading about myself, like I never consciously thought of myself. I thought of myself as something very complex all of a sudden, described almost like how I would function, my behaviors and all this, and even to the point of reading about my trauma. Like those tools were able to predict from my archetype what kind of trauma I would attract. And so reading this, I understand how I got there, and I understand who I am. And so the final one was the numerology. I had the number 9, which is the old soul, the humanitarian. And as I read old soul, I didn't read it as some kind of expression of, oh, you're such an old soul. I read it as, you are a soul in a body, and you're an old one. And just that explains so much, that it's like remembering something so big that you go from seeing yourself as that, and that's what an awakening is. Your soul is able to suddenly like stretch so far, and it feels like an awakening, because anything before that feels like being asleep, being like navigating on like autopilot, which is upsetting. But that's how it happened. And so my eyes convulsed. It was like a trance. I heard "Welcome Back" very distinctly in my head. So not like hearing, but I did. And I started crying. It was beautiful. And the whole night was just me receiving downloads from the universe, knowledge from the far side of the cosmos about what life is, space and time, the theory of relativity, quantum physics, and so forth and so far and so forth, and choosing what the meaning of life was, because I was trying to understand, because there are so many ways to see it. It was like, is it a simulation? Is it real? Is it just me? Are everybody just a projection to immerse me in something? And it's not that it was wrong with something I understood later, but I understood that it was about love. And that's what kept me here. And my awakening saved me, because had I not awakened, I probably would have taken my life out of heartbreak. And so that's how it started. And this awakening led me into the mission I'm in, because you're not granted an awakening for nothing.
Right.
You're granted an awakening for a second chance to live, but to live a life of love and a meaningful life. And when you have an awakening in a global scenario that looks like the one we have on Earth, spreading love is a mission, and it's a beautiful one. And so this is how it started.
So beautiful. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it is a beautiful mission to share love and to be open and to be a conduit. And I know that you are receiving information from the ethereal plane and then also keeping it grounded to be a steward of love. Mm-hmm. So how are you blending those two things and meeting yourself in both planes?
Well, that was the challenge after awakening, because before awakening, I felt like a true human. My feet on the earth and, just living that life, not questioning so much what happens outside of this globe. And all of a sudden I'm touched by something that comes from a higher dimension, something that I can't see, I can't hear, and yet I do. I'm sensing it. It put my head up in the cloud and the stars, and as a kid I was always interested by that, so it was beautiful. I felt like it made sense.
Yeah.
Something that was in me suddenly just bloomed, and I got to explore that. So I spent definitely at least a year completely immersed in this world, and I could say that I was hardly here. I was hardly a human. I lost a lot of weight. I wasn't very social. It's what we call the hermit phase, dark night of the soul. It's just you with you, because you're supposed to spend time to find out who you are and what you're here to do, etc. So, yeah, very challenging at first. And since it's this phase that in which I reconnected with myself, truly understood who I was, accepted it, and loved it, and where I was called to step into the mission after being given that mission, which looked like suddenly out of the blue, just create my own therapy. Creating is wrong because the knowledge is not mine, it's universal. But I'm creating the tool to translate that into a human accessible thing. So I created this therapy out of all this knowledge from the future and the past, from past lives and current life, and amazing thing to me. And once I was done, which is never really a thing anyway, when I thought, okay, I think I have enough to share, then I had to relearn, and I weigh my words when I say relearn, how to be a human, how to talk to people, because all of a sudden I had so much of me that was more of me than ever, that I almost had to hide, because only a few here are able to even hear that truth, accept it, and be interested in it at this time. So it was challenging sometimes to not be able to share that. And at first I just wanted to share it with everybody. I wanted to help everybody, and very quickly was met with that wall, and thought I just had to be much more patient and adapt my language and even just my approach to that, because anything superficial just became very difficult for me, because I had been touched by the meaning of life, and so I couldn't just navigate it superficially. So now I'm just like trying to help people out of that by getting into those more superficial energies, but it's no longer a problem, because it's also part of life. It's part of humans. We can't just talk about how to save the world. We also have to have fun, and sometimes it looks like having those conversations about the weather or the clothes we're wearing, or what did we eat last night. So it's just been nice relearning that. I feel like a grandparent trying to learn through their kids how to be, a modern human. So good exercise. And
Definitely.
mostly for empathy. If I expect people to connect in a world that's not theirs, I had to do the same effort and connect with them. And to remember that seconds ago, I was just on that side. So it's been fun. I'm doing good so far. Still difficult sometimes, but patience is my best tool right now.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's so interesting when we can. I completely empathize and relate to that statement of living in my awakening. I was very much living in the spiritual realm. I was in the ethers, and to come back down to the ground, there was moments where I just didn't want to. I was like, I like it more up there.
Yeah, I don't want to be here.
No.
Why?
And so there's this information that you have to merge and just accept and sit with. And so because I know that this is a constant dance that you've been able to integrate yourself in, what do you do? What are the tools that you've collected for yourself to give yourself grace, to create more patience for yourself and moving through these, muddy waters that we can often navigate our way through?
Well, I a few times had the opportunity to leave this plane of existence, and we call that death, which to me is not something sad. It would be sad for others, which had been a block for me to go forward with that. So I find peace knowing that if I truly want an exit, I have one. And then to realize that I'm here in this life because I chose to. And I had an awakening because I chose to dig rather than give up. And so that all of this is me choosing all this. And so to have a part of me that doesn't want to be here is the only reminder that I just don't like what things are here. That doesn't mean I should go. And if this life was just about enjoying things as they are, it would be nice. It would be amazing. But it's not the case. And so if you are born in a world that you do not relate to, then maybe you are here to change it. And given this mission and have created this therapy that saved me, because it's not just for others, it was for me first.
Right.
It was not selfishly, I was aware it would help. So having this gift that people are not ready for doesn't make me want to be recognized post-mortem. I want people to know when they're able to. And if it's not today, it might be tomorrow, next month, next year, but I'll be there. And I'm only 30, so I have many years of patience to have, because no matter what, death will come and I will go back where I want to go. So you don't have to rush. So that's what's keep me here.
Keeping you motivated.
Yes, the mission and wanting to leave this place a better one.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Can you share a little bit more about what your process and practice looks like when you start working with a new client, someone that you're taking, through the process of what it looks like to embody a dream-led life?
So it starts before we're even in contact, because to do what I do, there's a huge amount of trust that needs to be established. And to have trust, you need to have empathy and connection. And a lot of people are afraid still to face the truth, to face their trauma, their demons, because they're not trying to look at that. And so most people won't even, interact with me in that way. Everybody thinks my therapy is amazing. When you read about awakening, living your dreams, healing your body, your mind, and soul, it sounds amazing. But how many people truly do it?
Yeah.
How many people are ready? Because it's not a pill you take. It's conversations you have. And a lot of people are looking for this magical action on them. They're looking for the savior outside of themselves. And it doesn't work like that, because I tried to save you and you didn't want to. So to prove that you have to be the catalyst, I'm just a facilitator. I'm the one who shows the door, not the one who crosses it. So it starts with eye contact. I get to know in advance when someone is interested in connecting with me by just the way they look at me. It's like our souls recognizing each other, and them recognizing, oh, this is my guide, and me recognizing, oh, this is a student. when I meet someone I want to learn from, I go towards them. I don't let them find me. They're not doing that. They're busy. So I let people find me now. I used to try and reach, and that didn't work. That didn't work so well. My story happened to me, and it was my choice to work on it. So reminded by that. So then it's just conversation. I explain what I do. I try to be the most real about it. I try not to hide how difficult it is, how it might take a lot of sessions or just one, and that it depends solely on their ability to let go, their ability to accept, to receive, and to open their mind and to completely give up on what they thought this whole thing we call life is, including who they think they are, because that's usually the biggest block. And if you build your life on ego, then you're identified to it. And when we talk healing, we talk about ego death. And so it looks like you're about to kill yourself through this healing session. Oh, I know David's going to tell me to stop doing this, and this, and this. And I know he's right, but this is my whole life.
Right.
And so for people like this, I'm scary. They don't want it. So I usually connect with people who are like truly on the verge of, and it's sad, but it has to be this way, of breakdown. We somehow need this cataclysmic event in our life to say I had enough. And I can't say it takes just the one event. It's going to take the same event 3, 4, 5 times. Once you realize that you're like in a loop created by your mind, which is repeating itself like a code, and then you're tired of it, only then the door will draw itself, and it looks like me. You meet with me or another healer. We're many on here. So yeah, it's really that path. So yeah, when I meet those people, they're usually going through something, and everything I've been through before allows me to see this heaviness, this darkness, and help them out, because I see my path as very painful in a way, but I'm trying to save many years to people, because it's easy to spend a whole life in the one same loop. Totally. Be it with a job, a partner, with ourselves. It's easy. I know a lot of people around me, in my family or friends, who have just been recycling themselves through the same loop and expect a change from outside without trying to provoke the change within. And if you put 1 + 1, you get 2 every time. So if you want a different result, you're going to have to change the equation. And a lot of people are scared of that.
Yeah.
I meet with people with a cataclysmic event, and I always tell them I'm here. If this one wasn't enough, I'll be here the next time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's from my experience, I've learned, and I feel like I've had many cataclysmic experiences, and it's interesting because there's always something more to learn, and it can be the same thing sometimes, and it can be very different things other times. Yeah. And so when you get to dive through these layers of these intricacies that we get to learn more about ourselves and human existence, it can be really fascinating. So I am curious, what does a session look like? Is it more talk therapy, or are you taking folks through a deeper sense of their own quantum energetics through kind of like Reiki work? What does it look like for you?
For me, it's entirely conversation. There's no interaction. I'm not someone who's going to touch and heal out of touch, or speak and heal out of my speech, though my words are healing. But for them to heal, they have to be received. So we go back to what we just said, right? So it's entirely conversation, because my strongest chakra is the throat chakra, the expression. And it's the tone of my voice, it's the words I choose, because all this end up in your subconscious. If someone tells you when you're a kid, you're so ugly, you're fat, it's going to resonate for a while. It might resonate so much that you're going to create your identity out of that. And you have people who, heard that young and who became the opposite as a reaction, and built a whole identity out of just words they heard from the mother, usually people we trusted. Mother, dad, family, friends, school, the early environment. And so the words have an impact on our subconscious, and subconscious is where our coding is. So I use my words to replace what it's already there that's toxic, to replace it with beautiful words. And there's a whole array of energy I use to infuse my words with, be it healing, awakening, empowering. I work on all chakras. So at first I scan someone's energy through empathy, through my psychic abilities. And then once I identify the loops they're in, I always put the finger on what chakra is attacked and where their healing process is blocked. And I use my words to talk them out of it, because then it's their ability to want to switch. Because a lot of people are attached to their trauma, the Stockholm syndrome, being attached to the person that kidnaps you. It says a lot about what trauma does to a person. You get attached to it. In the love relationship I lost, we were both attached to our trauma. It felt more familiar than love was. That feel like freaky. So that says a lot about that. So yeah, it's conversation. And conversation is a strong exercise because it asks the other person to open up to me. And a lot of people come to me and are like, what do you see? I see a lot of things. I see several timelines right now. What matters in which one are you and which one do you want to be in?
Yeah.
And that's what I need to know, because you could be doing so many things. Tomorrow you could be somewhere else if you wanted.
Yeah.
You could quit your job. You could change your name. You could cut your hair. And all this is happening. And that's all I see. So I need them to confess a lot of things, to give me the most details so I can identify exactly which timeline they're on, which usually is a suffering timeline anyway, something that's manifested from ego. But what matters to me the most is then ask them, what's your dream? What if you were to write the book right now, what would you have done instead? Because I'm pretty sure your life right now doesn't look like what you had wanted as a kid. Did you dream of labor? Did you dream of toxic relationship? Did you dream of all these things? And most likely, I doubt no. So then we talk about, in a dream life, what would you do? And then I start building a bridge between the current timeline and the other one, and explain then that this is the bridge. This is how you get into this dream timeline, and all the steps. And the steps look like you have to let go of this. You have to change your perception of that. You have to forgive this. You have to heal that. So I give all the steps and details, and I explain as much as they need. Because some people they don't want to dive too far.
Right.
They leave it to me to know all the quirks and details. As long as they are guided, that's all that matters. So, and sometimes the session is only to help them through one cycle. And I'm pretty sure, because they don't have the capacity to do the whole timeline thing. It's a lot of work. And that can just look like a lifetime for someone, but that's fine as long as you do it. So yeah, I help them envision the steps towards this higher timeline, the dream timeline. And so once you get there, your dream is just a reality. It's effortless. Things happen to you. You are happy. And the only price was letting go of your trauma, which shouldn't sound like a bad thing.
Right.
It should sound pretty good, but it's more the attachment to it. That's the problem.
It's the attachment.
So I try and get into their subconscious and really explain what it means to live off of ego, and how this attachment is only gonna show itself to be worse and worse and worse, and how I do not want to be right about it, but I will end up being right because it's just what it is.
Right.
So yeah.
You don't want to perpetuate the cycle, and also if folks aren't choosing to navigate the path of letting go of the attachment, then it'll continue to perpetuate itself.
Because for example, if you're in a toxic relationship, healing doesn't mean leaving the relationship. It means understanding how you even got to attract someone like that in the first place, and how you let it happen for years, and how even when you knew consciously that it was a problem, that you stayed. This is because otherwise you're gonna go dating and find the same person in a different body, recycling the same trauma. And then if you leave but then let them back in, it might just look like, oh, we're doing it again. So it's not just leaving and letting go like that. It's letting go of who you were that allowed that to happen. So we always go back to you. It's not someone else's fault.
Nope.
It's not going to happen to you. Change is decision. And if you want to change, you have to change you.
1,000%.
You don't change your house, and you don't buy a car and a house
right.
before you take care of this guy.
Right.
So if you have money to invest, it's on your healing first, and then you buy the house, because then you're a happy person in it. So it's all about priorities. So yeah,
absolutely.
Starting to work on you should be. It's sad, but society doesn't teach us that.
No, they don't.
It's pretty much the opposite. They don't even mention that you have to work on you like that. And it's truly the first thing we should be told to do before you even dive in relationships, in career. Because how many people end up in a marriage that doesn't fit, a career that's not theirs, so far away from their dreams. So we just have to be able to undo ourselves, almost like a pure blank canvas, and allow me to tell them who they are, because as a psychic and empath soul, I see their highest self, I see their highest purpose, and I see their highest timeline. And for me, my whole life it was a problem, because I would see people's best, and I would be deceived by people's worst.
Oh, interesting.
I would pedestalize everybody, because I fall in love almost with everybody I meet. I'm like, oh my God, you're a beautiful being. But then they behave from ego and shadow. And it's because I see the best in everybody. Now I use it the other way. I'm like, since I see your best, but you do not seem to be acting from that place, then let me show you the way there. And that's the way home. That's the way to you.
1,000%.
And the way home, the way to you is the way to your dreams and to your healing and all the beautiful things. So.
I just got chills. It's so good. Yeah, it's interesting when you mention that. I feel like I have a tendency to see the best in people at all times, and it's also led me to these cycles that I've had to learn, where I've been in toxic, more friendships than anything, where I'm like, this is not for my highest good. And then to go through them over and over again, to then have to learn and sit back and really understand that it's me taking things personally.
Yep.
It's so hard to admit that to ourselves. But once we actually take accountability for how we play a role in whatever dynamic we're in, it could be with food, right? Whatever dynamic we're in.
Exactly.
We have to come to terms with the relationships that we have with anything and everything.
Yeah, it's really taking the time to think about, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Why did I walk in the street, smell burgers, and all of a sudden wanted it? Well, that's programming.
Right.
Yeah. But when it comes to seeing the best, it's... you see the best in someone, and they always say the vision you have of someone is usually built on your vision of yourself. Like, everybody projects an idea they have off of you, and it's based on what they know. And so my family view me as something that's probably long gone. They see me as this kid that's learning from them, when truly they're in a phase of where they have to learn from me. And until they wake up to that, they'll see me as something I'm not. And that also works the other way, seeing me as less than I am. And so people who see people in their best are usually already themselves expressing that. And so it's like I'm assuming that I'm going to meet everybody at the same level to which I've met with myself.
Right.
Which is deceiving.
Very deceiving, yes.
So now I'm just trying to help everybody to get into my world, because I've been there the whole time.
Right.
And now I'm just trying to, and I hurt myself thinking others would be. It's easy to turn that into a fantasy world where
1,000%.
you meet someone and you get excited, and it just won't be like that. So, yeah.
Right. And that's part of the mission for love, right?
Exactly.
Yes, accepting people as they are, and also not being deceived by our own perceptions.
It's more about being a beacon for them. It's like, if he needs highest energy, then I can inspire myself
1,000%.
to be the same. But that means there's a need of separation at some point, because to spend time with people who haven't met themselves to the level which we met ourselves with, it's having to go back in previous version that were traumatic and replaying the scenario. So that's also the hardest part of healing, is outgrowing people and having to say goodbye, maybe not forever, but hoping that they will also be animated with the choices that we made to be there.
Yes, beautifully said. And I want to touch on this because you mentioned, your family. You are going home tomorrow to France for 3 weeks, which is a long period of time to be home and to be visiting with family. and friends. And so I would love for you to just give some conversation around what it looks like to live in a world where you are coming up against past traumas or past reactions, and how do you create more spaciousness in those situations so that more love can live in those sticky places.
Yeah, going back to France is literally going back in my past, except I'm no longer a kid in there, and I'm no longer bound by the rules or the trauma and the cycles I was in as a kid there. But to be safe there, to not go back and literally be attacked by what it used to be, I have to go there as my authentic self. That means not allow them to pull me down, not allow their mistrust and misbelief into what I do to attack me. What I do is backed up by the cosmos. There's nothing else that can, it's untouchable. And it's being sovereign of my own energy. And it applies to home and France for me as much as it does to work and any environment I step in that is not aware of who I am. And so it's more of a, if you act based on what you think I am and it's wrong, then it's my role to teach you what I am.
Oof.
Yeah. And so sometimes people are not ready to be taught because they are far away from that, and because what you have become is something they are against. And sometimes it looks like a coming out. Some people have to tell their parents, I am gay, I'm lesbian, I want to change sex, or my partner is black. There's a lot of those we do, and that's healing to tell your family, because it's healing the roots. If your root of your being is against who you become, then it's like there's some poison in your life, and it's placed in your past. Quantum healing means that we heal energy, and energy is not bound by space and time. So healing the past means healing the present. So when I go to France, yes, it's the present, but it's like I'm in the past because it's untouched. Nothing has changed. The mentalities haven't changed. So when I go back, I'm like a glitch. I'm an update. I'm a virus. They have to take it and update. And it takes several, I've been there several times already. But every time I get closer, because they're aware, nobody's choosing ego consciously. They're unconsciously doing it.
1,000%.
And choosing soul is the only thing that makes sense anyway. So choosing love, and they do not want to lose me. They do not want, because I had to threaten too. I was like, if you do not support me in my dreams, in who I am, then I do not wish to keep contact, because if I have dreams, I want people to support it, not to destroy it. And I understand that you're in this fear scarcity mindset, but I'm not there anymore. So let me, put your ego aside and let me teach you what I've learned. And this year, specifically, magically almost, feels like my whole family is ready. My brother came and visit me, which was so special because he's never left France. I'm so far away from who he is. We're very polar opposite. But he took the courage to come here outside of his comfort zone, not just because he's in America, but because my life is entirely something he's not having ever. And to meet with me, to get to know me, and to accept me as I am. And he was like, even if I do not believe in the things you do yet, I accept this is what makes you happy. And I wanted to see what your life was. And that's what he said. And my dad paid for my trip. I didn't pay for it this time.
Aww.
So that was also special. It's like I'm wanted back there.
Absolutely.
So we go back to heal someone, they have to ask for it. And so they're like asking me, in a way, very subtle. It's never words. With my family, it's very unspoken love. But all these signs showed me that they might be ready for some conversations. And finally, my mom, she's been taking medication left and right, a medication for the symptoms of another medication, which is leading into
so hard.
This loop. Take medication, I never heal, I take more. And somehow we believe that this is going to work because it's the healthcare system and we trust it. And so she's at the point now where she's taking a treatment that's not even it's like a test. They don't really know. So there are 3 different treatments, and they're like, if this one doesn't work, there's the next. She's like, a lab test. And I told her, how long do you need to play this game to repeat this loop to take an action? And the treatment she takes are like to the point of having dark thoughts. It's pretty bad. And I told her, you pushed me to pursue medicine studies. I went and studied physical therapy, nutrition, mental health. It left there because I went to America. I did get a bachelor, and then here I studied holistic health, natural medicine, behavioral and cognitive patterns, and obviously anything more spiritual, quantum physics. And I told her, they know I built a therapy that healed all of the guy here, from body, mind to soul. And my problems are their problems. I had the same problems they had, because that's how it works. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I told her, you pushed me to pursue that. I did. I successfully did. I even did better than I thought. I did just follow her curses and ended up being another doctor. I became something unique, something new, something greater than what we know of medicine yet. And I have all the tools for you, but I need you to say yes. And she realized how ridiculous it was just to take all this medicine, and how, the loop takes you closer and closer to the end. If you keep choosing ego, you choose death, because ego is bound to die. Soul only rebirth. Soul is infinite. Ego, it's just a one-time thing. And so now she's willing to talk. So it's a little victory.
That's a huge victory.
The stars
that's the door that's open.
Yeah, the stars are aligning, and mostly healing your mom is just something specific. There's the relationship to mom, the one that gave birth to you. It's like healing her for humans. It's healing mother. It's one of the goals. Because my dad is fine in many ways. The healing my mom is healing my family, because she's at the core of it. My grandparents are her parents. My dad is her husband, and we are her 2 kids. She's the one that suffers the most, and so healing her is very special. So yeah.
Such an honor and a gift. My mom was the first person in my family that was willing to do breath work with me after I got certified. And to have that experience was so beyond powerful. For her to see her dad that passed away when she was 3, wow. These massive monumental moments that we were able to have conversation about after, it was just life-changing. And I'm so excited for you to be able to, not only is she willing, but in her saying that she's willing, she's saying yes to something different.
And it might take a couple more visits. It's a victory.
1,000% it is.
I'm still standing, and I'm 30, so I'll have the patience for all my family. Because however ready they think they are, they made a step forward, all of them, towards me, not towards anything. So yeah, very, very happy to go back. And I'll do a lot of other things, of course. But that's definitely the big goal this time. And for me, I'm using this time to be reminded of where I'm from, because becoming this ethereal being from outer space kind of made me forget, as a reaction to humanity being very weird, that I didn't really want to be a human for some time. And so going back there reminds me of what kind of human did I start the story as. And my best friends are typically the people I'm the most free over there. And it takes a second in their presence to go back as a young human me. So it's bridging the two, my past and my future.
So good.
Yeah.
And you're going to get some play in there, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Get
Memories.
The play. Yeah.
And trying to bring as much of this past into here, the good stuff, and as much of the good things from the future into the past too. Because it's all happening now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's so good.
Reconcile both.
Yeah. Reconcile both. And then again, I love that you've mentioned the word bridge is just such a beautiful representation of melding and blending these two different, patterns of existence that we get to kind of like meld together. And it's such a beautiful representation also of Portland, right?
Yes.
Where we live.
Yeah, Bridge City.
Yeah, Bridge City. So it's great that you get to go, and it sounds like your family is very like analytical, and so for you to come and bring in your ethereal presence, I'm sure it can feel for them very aggravating because it's so polar to what maybe they've experienced in their life thus far.
I'm a mirror because
yes.
I was about as closed off, logical minded as they were, very Cartesian, need the proof and everything. And so to be now, it's like a glitch again. You see that and you can't help but like, how is this a thing even? But they have the proof of my happiness, about my achievements, my successes, and all that is just making them wonder, how does he do? And I'm more triggering every time because they get to see what they could be every time they see new me. Because I'm only the next steps of who they are already. Except my parents spent 30 years since I was born having the same loop happening. And now they get to see me make the decision they could have made and to see in which state of happiness they could be. And so they have to be wondering, and it's happened. And again, the best way to heal people is first to just be yourself and inspire them to be curious. And like, how does he do? I don't believe in it, but eventually I'll tell them, you don't have to believe in it, but if you don't believe in it, it's not going to come true for you. So if you want to have the conversation, I will. So now they want to.
So good. And yes, curiosity, right? It's when those little things come into our frame of reference, into our mind, and we get to just ask more questions. That's where love gets to be the mission, because conversation is the bridge, right? Conversation can be the bridge towards deeper expansion and deeper understanding of ourselves and how we co-create the life that is only love itself. So
and healing them heals me because it's my past, so it's like an act of forgiveness in a way. And not that I put the blame on them, their trauma, they got it from somewhere else too. That's what happens, but it's truly healing my roots, healing them. So it goes beyond them. They're not my patients, they're not my clients. So healing them, it's something unique entirely. 100%. So I do benefit from it too.
Absolutely.
I just want us to have this family I always wanted us to. So I will benefit, not selfishly from it, but I will.
Yeah, and it isn't selfish. It's selfless, I would say, because you know that in doing that for them, you're really setting them free.
Yeah.
And when love has no bounds, that's when we get to that's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah, I hope to inspire them just enough.
Oh, you will.
Yeah.
Just by being you, and that's exactly what you've been saying. It's how do we come to these deeper understandings about ourselves so that whatever is getting in our way, we can be our most true, authentic version of self to then inspire others to do the same.
Yeah.
And that's the mission.
Yeah. And being in the truth.
Yes.
Because it might sting a little bit at first when I'm going to speak.
Going to sting, for sure.
They will have to face what my childhood was, what theirs was, what their life is currently. And it's all what we call awakening is not comfortable at all.
Not at all.
Because if everything was comfortable, we wouldn't have to awaken in the first place. So the things I will say is going to open their mind to question things they haven't. And the uncomfort is what triggers the awakening. So
1,000%. Yes, that's the juicy stuff.
Yeah, the mood will be mixed, but hopefully towards the end will be much better.
Yeah, definitely.
That's usually what happens in session. At first, it feels very heavy, but towards the end, it's tears, it's joy, it's okay. I get this. It's courage. It's a lot of good things. So
yeah, so good. So, what did you do, and what do you recommend for your clients to do to support themselves so that they can feel held as they process the crunchy bits? Because that's the hard stuff, right? So what do you kind of recommend, or what do you do for yourself when you're going through a crunchy moment to feel supported and grounded?
Something I always did, and that's why my voice was the obvious strongest power for me with the third eye, intuition. It's to trust myself in my feelings. Knowledge is a thing, but knowledge doesn't mean anything if it's not applied. And most people know that they are in a toxic environment, but knowledge is nothing if it's not followed by act. And so being conscious of things and not acting, it's duality within. And you'll only live your best life once you're united within. So it's aligning your feelings, which is your truth, because how you feel is true. And align your thoughts and action towards this. It's aligning soul, mind, and body as one. And it's only when you're as one that you are you. And so if you do not act as you feel, then you're lying to yourself. And this is the ego right there. It's like your mind is like a blockage. Your soul doesn't get to translate through. And your mind works your body instead of your soul. And your soul works your mind. So it's just like a whole separation. So that's how I do. And I talk a lot to myself. As if I was my best friend, my grandma, my mom, some stranger. It feels like there's a whole team around me. Spirit guides, I guess. I don't have any face to put on or name, but I just always had this feeling as a kid that there was a whole bunch of people in my head, around me, whatever, like I'm being filmed. And so I talk out loud, and sometimes I will speak something that I haven't consciously thought of before, and it's coming out as automatic speech. And this is what keeps me, it reminds me that this only comes out of me. Nobody else is gonna. I mean, some people will like drop things, but it feels very detached. It's like the universe talking to you through someone else, but you have to be seeking truth. So seeking truth is the ultimate way to navigate. Only wanting the truth about you, about what you want, about how you feel. Truth. Truth is scary. So you have to really want it.
Truth can be scary. And then also when we allow it to not be so scary, when we just trust that the truth is for our highest good, that's when we can find a little bit more flow. There's some things that are so, I mean, like just even going home for me and being home for this past month, that was so challenging because seeing, you know, a family member that was sick and not doing well, and then also just people not handling that stress well, and still doing my best to stay grounded in my truth and to stay just at peace, even with knowing that I don't know anything. I don't know what's ahead, but that I can do my best to stay grounded. That in itself was so challenging, and yet I felt so grounded and safe in not knowing.
That's like proof of success for you, because mostly like in a world where war just like starts again between Palestine and Israel, or just the state of the world, or in America, just overall keeping you it's already a lot to keep yourself like stable and not disconnected from the events. But we all have to understand in what way we can act, and if we cannot, then the way to raise love on earth is to raise love within. I can't save me. I can't save anybody else.
1,000%.
I can't stop the war over there. So yes, I can help with donations and stuff, that's for sure. Or then go on the spot and help, but then how many people get to do that? The best way we have is to be aware of what it is and do our best to birth a better world, because it starts in everybody's. We're all a seed. And so we all have the same planet. So it starts with you.
Yeah, 1,000%. You mentioned earlier something about just houses and cars, and this is our home. This is our home, our physical realm, this body that we get to live in. So it's like, how can we take care of this first in all the ways, mind, body, spirit? And so that's the gift.
Yeah.
And then when we have that in tune, then we can do more to give to others.
It's too bad that we don't prioritize ourselves. For example, with the pricing of my sessions, I've been from following most healers, which are quite pricey, but I get it, we have to pay rent. And I went to like even having it for free. My first session is free.
Wow.
And it doesn't attract more people.
Really?
Because it's not about the price. It's about prioritizing yourself.
Right.
And when a session that potentially can in one just occurrence can heal body, mind, soul is not the top priority. When someone says, I can help you live your dreams, and that's not top priority, and the first session is free, and you'd rather spend your money on Uber Eats or alcohol or concerts, those are fine, but after you took care of the person, buying a car is great, but after you took care of the pilot, because what's a car with a pilot that's unhealthy? It's not going to last long. It's nice to have a beautiful house, but you have to be a beautiful human inside. So it just shows the gap between how we should think and of ourselves and where we're at. I believe we'll get there. We always go back to the cataclysmic event of I came to accept that this might be just like the human archetype, that this is just how we do.
It's such an interesting thing to think about, isn't it? Because it really is so fascinating to me. When we embody the victim mentality and then we can't get out of it, it's like we want to punish ourselves. And I understand that there is a satiating sense to feeling the depths. I get it. It can be that in itself can be pleasurable. And also, what does it look like to feel it and just feel it and recognize it and not be attached to it?
Yeah.
So that we can then embody the polarity of whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Humans. And I, as a healer, I'm never in the judgment because I was just there.
Right.
I was entirely resisting all this, behaving as like that, distracting myself with all the earthly pleasures, but we partake in those pleasures to numb ourselves because truly we're in pain. So yeah, we all have a timing with this, like I did, and it took what it took to wake me. And so, yeah, I'm here for the heavy cataclysm that everybody needs to face, to talk about, and to get out of.
Yeah. So I'd be so curious for you to share, what type of things are you offering now as a space holder, as a facilitator? What does it look like for someone to work with you?
Well, the first session is free, like I said, so it's a perfect way to get in touch with me, to just see what the guy is about, what's his vibration, what his energy is like. Do I like him even? Because not every healer will match you. It's the way they approach life, their trauma, that will have to match you. Because, for example, I'm not someone who gave birth. So you would want to go to a woman healer who has kids for that. Though I believe I can help about anything, you want to trust and match your healer like that. So the first session is really, do you understand what I say? Does my speech matches you? Do you like my energy like that? And then, does what I say make sense to you? So it's really like an introduction, and for people to see, are they even themselves able to receive the session? Because it's not just about sitting next to me and I'm talking, because I could do that for hours. But are you able to exchange with me? Because my psychic abilities are fed by what I'm given. It's like I'm given information from the person. It gets into me, goes up there, comes back in, and comes back out. It's a whole like, and I'm a conduit at this point, because as me right here, I am not my higher self. I am an incarnation of it. So it's lower than what it would be. But during the session, I channel my higher self. So for those who don't know, higher self, it's just the highest expression of you. If you had no trauma at all, like the most beautiful, higher consciousness being, something that's hard to be when you wake up every morning, but that you can aim to be closer to or listen to, because it's that voice we call intuition too. And so I connect to this one to really speak the best words possible to the other person, because they're trying to be guided by something higher, not something lower. So I really go out there and enrich and explain the processes. I I go and ask them, tell me about what's going on right now. What are your main struggle? What brought you here? And if they're willing to just like share that with me, then we're already doing work. I can be very superficial, as in like, oh, I'm going through, I don't know if I need to move to another place or quit this job, very small problems. So for some people, it starts there. But once we truly dive into the loops that really happen, the true pain, the trauma, the childhood,
yeah,
then we're starting to do the work. But usually in the first session, it's more like an introduction, like trying to see for them how safe they can feel next to me. And if they are like a good recipient for what I have to say, because seeking wisdom is one thing, but being able to receive it and honor it is the other thing. And so I reserve myself the right to tell people that they are not ready, because I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this because it's my purpose. So if someone is not ready, I don't want them to lose their time and mine in vain, because they will not be able to use what I will tell them. And I hate to have to ask people for money if they're not satisfied with the session. So I'd rather just not. So the first session is free, and it's really just the best way to get into that. And then session after session, I evaluate the needs they have. I put a healthy amount of pause in between for their life to unravel, for them to apply. Because if you don't apply the level 1, we're not going to get to level 10.
No.
And I'm not going to trust you to even listen to me. So it works that way. And some people will only take 3 sessions, some take 1. It depends really to what they need, where they're at, the ability to receive. I explain all that on my website. And the final session, it's a session that's separate. It's like almost a ceremony.
I love that.
Of awakening. To get to this one, it's like the culmination of the whole healing journey. So to get to this one, I have to suggest it to the person. You don't ask for it. And if you ask for it, we're going to get into a consultation for me to evaluate, is it an ego asking me for, or are you truly ready to jump? And the final session, it's, I don't know if you watch the movie Inception.
Many times.
I love that movie. So it's the same. I access, like I do the whole time, the session, I access the subconscious of the person, but with them, like I always do anyway. And so we access the subconscious, and with all what we've done, all the work before as a foundation, they are there aware of what they have to let go. They're also aware of their dreams, of what they have to let in. And we're literally doing a swap. I'm facilitating swapping life almost.
Beautiful.
So it's like you plant a seed, and when you wake up, your life is entirely different. But to build that momentum, there's all the sessions that come before. And so that's what I make sure of. But yeah, I plant the seeds of your dream, of your life being a dream, and of you being the conscious creator of your life. And that if tomorrow you want it to rain, it will. It's kind of like what I teach there. It doesn't work like that because it's a big planet. There's a lot of people manifesting the weather maybe. But it's just the idea of I'm about to open the door within your subconscious that your life is so much more, and so are you. And that if you cross, these are the conditions to stay there, because nothing's granted ever. You're always tested. If I open the door, you get in, our session ends. It's easy to do all the good choices in my presence, because that's what I do. I'm this energy. But then you go back home, and it's like it's all gone.
Right.
You go to nature, and you're like, oh, I'm this primal being in nature, I belong again. And then you go back in the city, and you're going to your 9 to 5, and you go back to just being this tortured human. So it's easy to go back in places and forget it all. That's why you have to be sovereign within yourself, to be authentically saying, this is who am I. It's like a coming out of life.
Totally.
And then going back in your reality after the session, coming back down from the clouds and apply it all. Because the seeds have been planted. So now you have to water it. If you don't water the seed, it's not going to grow. But it's there at least. So this session is not vain ever. But then it's the ability of them to like maintain and anchor the high vibration that hold this timeline. Because we talk about a timeline that's the highest. So it's very hard to anchor on this ground. So
Right.
it takes about as much effort. But again, the sessions before are the groundwork for this final one. So usually I'm pretty certain one day people step into that.
That's awesome.
Right.
And can you share your website and how people can find you?
Yeah. My website, the address, www.maz-zda.com.
Perfect. I'll add that in the show notes as
Yes.
well. But and your Instagram.
Instagram, DA, and then how do you call the hyphen? That's low. I'm French.
Low.
Lowercase? No, the low one.
I don't know. I think
So
I do, but right now
So it's
I'm
the
not.
hyphen, the one that's below the letters, right?
The low one.
So it's DA and 5 of those. Vega, VEGA. So that's my
Perfect.
Instagram, but I guess it'll be in the link as well.
It'll be in the link. I'll
yeah.
include it there for
And
sure.
feel free to bother me. It's the best thing ever because I'm not currently busy by the amount of sessions. This is what I wish I could be busy of, helping people. So, and all the questions people need all the time I'll be patient. I understand it's a game of patience mostly. And my point is to leave them with what they need and not to take their money. I wouldn't sleep at night. And and my website is pretty ethereal, very immersive. It's like, it looks like a travel in your dream and in space. And there's enough information to even do the work without me. If you were to be able to
deep dive,
deep dive and translate what's on there and understand it. So the information on there is very free, already given. But if anything, it explains what I do. And so any questions, I have the answers of. And it's a good introduction to the first free session.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And if you had one slice of wisdom from your own experience that you would like to share with us, what would it be?
The dreams are real, and to dream your life, you have to believe in your dreams. And it sounds cliche because you always hear those in songs, in poems, but dreams are real, and that it takes you to believe in it for it to be. Because if you're not living your dreams, chances are great that you're living your nightmares. And if you're not living in love, you're living in fear. And that there's no in between to that, but the healing journey. So, yeah.
So good. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. All the love, all the peace, all the blessings. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey there, it's Danae again. Just wanted to say thank you for sharing your time and energy with me. If this podcast resonates, please like, subscribe, follow, and share if you're willing. Reviews help too, so if you're feeling the vibe, please leave a review where you can. Sending all the love. Peace.